Hey Gundam fans, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. Today we're continuing our review of 080 War in the Pocket. We're on the fourth episode, so we're nearly there at the end and it's starting to heat up. Before we get started, if you haven't subscribed, we're doing a giveaway. There's a link in the description for the giveaway. And even if I've hit the requirement to do the giveaway, there will be continuing ongoing giveaways. So this episode, it's episode 4 of War in the Pocket, is Over the River and Through the Woods. Very interesting title. It kind of calls back to some old rhymes or stuff that we'd sing about in school. Well, this one, where it left off was Bernie and Al had snuck into what could have been a Federation base where the mobile suit might have been that they're looking for. Just as the episode ended, Al was peeping through a little window with a camera and some Federation soldiers were coming around the corner, and then it ended. So, let's see what's going on now. Yeah, this is where Al is taking a picture of the mobile suit. And what he's really taking a picture of, and I mentioned before, is the Alex NT-1. This is that same Gundam mobile suit that Chris McKenzie was testing, and that also is being built for Amuro Ray. And as he's taking the pictures, he hears footsteps of Federation soldiers coming by. Luckily, Al finds a spot to hide in up above so they don't find him. I guess they're going to the vending machine, just talking about their leave and trying to meet up with someone. So I guess Al is still sneaking through the walls or the ceiling of this underground base. He gets to an area where he can emerge, and Bernie's there. Bernie's pretty mad at him for kind of just running out there. Now, the thing is, Al is doing what the Zeons would prefer. I mean, he's actually completing this mission. Bernie is just in a different mindset. He's really thinking about safety, and he even doesn't like getting Al caught up in all of this. Now, it cuts to Steiner, the leader of the Cyclops team, and he's watching a newscast. It's very interesting to get some world building here. So what's going on is they're talking about how in their colony that they're at, Side 6, they're banning any Zeon vessels from coming in. So right now we're kind of seeing the political landscape, especially at this colony, where they're banning Zeon vessels. It looks like the Zeons are considered the bad guys. And considering that the Cyclops team, they snuck in, they're almost like they're stuck there, right? And they have to sort of figure out a way to get out without being caught. And they even show on the newscast how it looks like a Zeon vessel, I think it's called the Musai, being escorted out. And we get kind of a look at the nighttime life at Side 6 colony. Garcia is actually headed to a bar. So as Garcia sits at the bar, the bartender approaches him, and Garcia just says some interesting phrases. And what this phrase does is tell the bartender who he is. So this bartender is possibly a Zeon sympathizer, someone that is gathering intelligence for them. And so because he was able to say the code correctly, he takes him to the back of the room. Really cool to kind of see this level of espionage that is occurring. Basically, Garcia is wanting to get as much info as he can about where their base is. Now, funny that this is going on because Al and Bernie have already kind of completed that, but the means that Garcia and the Cyclops team are trying to go through here are to not really alert anyone or take any risks. Cool shot of the car driving through the city. Bernie gets punched by Garcia. They weren't too happy about his methods, kind of letting the kid kind of get himself in danger, actually, to really endanger the mission, get themselves killed. Now, Steiner, he brings up the fact that they could get themselves killed, but it could be more if they don't want to expose themselves or what Zeon is doing. We get these really touching scenes that are coming up. We have Al and Bernie is in the car. Al's asleep. Bernie's taking him home. And then as Bernie's picking up Al's things, he finds a sketchbook. And the sketchbook is of drawings of each member of the Cyclops team, and even has a drawing of Bernie and Al together. And Bernie looks at that, and you can tell he kind of feels, the feels are going on right now. He's conflicted with what's happening. He's getting Al involved in this conflict. Bernie is, feeling the connection with Al, but doesn't like what his greater objective is in this whole thing. And here we go with that drawing that he did. And that's kind of cool. That kind of lends to the nature and how we're seeing these, like a kid like Al being involved in what he's being involved in, but we're still seeing kids being kids while there's war going on. Bernie goes to Chris's house, next door to Al, to drop off a sleeping Al. And this is kind of a touching moment between Bernie and Chris. kind of nice to see them just kind of talk to each other. She calls him by his last name and he calls her by her last name. And they kind of come together and say, hey, my name's Bernie. And she goes, well, I'm Chris, and I think that's just another moment where, they are soldiers of opposing sides, but to them in their world. Yeah, and what's interesting here is Chris doesn't know this, and Bernie does know, but he just doesn't care, and he's not even trying to get information from her directly. I think we'll see that he's kind of using Al for that, but then even then he tells Al, not to do that, and then he says bye, and then he's pretty happy about meeting her, and he takes off happy. And then you see her parents kind of looking out the window again. They're really setting up like this nice story, romantic story between these two characters when really the greater world of what's occurring isn't going to allow for a happy ending. Here we go, Christmas time. It's kind of cool in Gundam, in Universal Century, to see inside Six or to see in the colony, in the Gundam world, like what Christmas is like, playing Jingle Bells, seeing all the decorations everywhere, really fitting with this being a Christmas show. Cyclops team, they're kind of out in the town getting supplies they're going to use for their next operation, which we're going to see here shortly. Very interesting exchange that goes on at school, and I really like this. A lot of world building while seeing people act in their natural environment, but also it reflects on the current modern day politics. So, for instance, Al is drawing a Zeon mobile suit, and someone says, "Oh, a Zeon mobile suit, they're the bad guys." And Al's like, "What? What are you talking about? They're cool. Zaku's are awesome." And they're bringing up, my mom says the Zeons are bad guys. They are the bad guys. And other kids are coming up saying the same thing. And Al just doesn't really understand that. For him, he just likes the military aspect, the mobile suits. It's almost like reflecting on kind of the child in us all when we like Zeon mobile suits in general. We just like the idea of the fictional battle of the mobile suits. Me personally, the reason I like this stuff a lot is because I'm enjoying this sort of world and art that is not actual real life. This is all fictional. Yes, in the stories, people die, but I'm not celebrating the death of real people. And so what then is even more interesting is they bring up the Gundam, and Al's like, what's a Gundam? And it's really cool that they bring that up. They talk about how Gundam took out like 100 Zakus, and they're talking about Amuro Ray, so that's really cool. He gets a shot out indirectly. Also interesting that the girl from earlier seems to come to Al's defense here, while everyone's kind of getting on him for liking the Zeons, even though they're the bad guys. We see Steiner and the bartender from earlier at the park, and they're kind of discussing what is happening and the kind of greater Zeon versus Federation war happening. They're saying the war may be ending soon. They're kind of decoys, or they're kind of just the fodder that was kind of be used. He was assigned a rookie, which was Bernie, and wasn't given an escape ship to get out once their mission concluded. And so, he's suggesting to him, you guys should just run. And even getting, a lot deeper, they're showing these families having fun, a nice day outside at the colony, unbeknownst to everyone what's happening in the background, that there's this conflict. And in the end, it's really all about money, all about power. And you can see where they're humanizing these characters, even though Stein and the Cyclops team are technically the bad guys being on Zeon. You can kind of see where they're just caught up in all of this. Al and Bernie are sitting on the roof here, and they're talking about how, they found that Gundam and they have to destroy it. Bernie's thinking, he's not too sure if he can do it, but they've got to try it. They're either going to capture it or destroy it. And very interesting, Bernie asks Al, has Chris said anything about me? You can tell this is a point where Bernie is more interested in Chris as a person, not really mattering what's going on with this war. What's interesting with what Bernie is asking Al is, hey, I was just hoping to talk to Chris. She's a fatty soldier. Maybe I can get some information from her. And really what I think it sounds like is Bernie is trying to cover himself of not letting Al think he's interested in Chris. But I think Al takes seriously what Bernie says about getting information. And so Al is going to attempt to do what he can to get information from Chris that has to do with the Federation, their mobile suit, their Gundam, etc. At this point, the Cyclops team is planning their operation. They're actually sitting down with what looks like some old school video game console with wired controllers, and they're just kind of mapping out what the operation is going to be. Okay, so with Al wanting to follow through, being part of the Cyclops team, and he gets with Chris and asks, hey, can I maybe go to the Federation base? And so he plans to go tomorrow to the Federation base and look around. But this was the same time that the Cyclops team had that operation in place. And so Bernie over the phone is telling Al, don't go there. Do not go. And he's not really explaining to him why, because he doesn't want Al to get caught up that far into this. All right, and here the Cyclops team is getting the camphor prepared for launch. So, let's see what's going to be going on next. The operation commences. We see some of the Cyclops team already getting in to the Federation base in Federation disguise. Very interesting. Bernie is using an Australian accent to kind of speak with the soldiers. And I think that has to do with, Australia is where a main base is for the Earth Federation Force. And so that's the Torrington base, actually. And so what's interesting, though, is Bernie saying he's from Australia and talking about the weather actually ends up tipping off the Federation soldiers because he speaks about the weather being a certain way at a time of year where the weather is not like that. And at the same time, this is when Al shows up at the Federation base, and there's this interview going on with a scientist there that is working on technology that has to do with the arms. And the interviewer is even asking, isn't this for military purposes? And he's saying, no, not at all. Kind of lending to this being a secret base. And as Al's in there, he actually swipes a card so that he can get further into the Federation base. We see some interesting contrast here coming up because we see some hands being shaken here. And then next up, a knife into someone. And so this is the Cyclops team, disguised as Federation soldiers, have infiltrated the base, and they're now just slowly taking out who they can. Really, the operation is capture the Gundam or destroy the Gundam. And at the same time, the camphor, it's being launched. It's been put together, and it's ready for an attack for the diversion. Cool music, cool animation. Garcia, Steiner, and Bernie going into the Federation base. Steiner's holding the box of items that they're going to be using for this operation. Very cool shot where, citizen of the colony screaming because there's the camphor kind of hiding behind a building. Very cool shot. And, because of that camphor being seen, we see the launch of the Gray Phantom. So this is I believe, Pegasus class. I could be wrong. Earth Federation vessel. And so this is going to be able to launch mobile suits to help defend. Nothing says Christmas like a Xeon mobile suit walking past a Christmas tree. And very cool mobile suits here. And we see the Cyclops team has met up with the Alex NT1. Very cool shot here. Just seen it with the Choban armor. Let's see what happens. So they were caught. And then they give the signal. I mean, that's some gruesome but awesome animation there. Ooh. And sad to see Al caught up in all that. I mean, just look at that. I mean, this is some top-tier animation, even for today. It's just really well done. The scale, the anatomy of the look of the animation, it's just really well done. Really cool that we see the shot inside the Gray Phantom, and they're like Scarlet Team launch. Really cool shot of the mobile suits launching. Yeah, some cool GMs, gun cannons. The shotgun and the Sturmfaust of the camphor just totally taking them out. And look, people are watching the destruction. Really cool animation there. Really cool seeing Chris en route to get into the Gundam NT. Garcia's attempting to plant mines on it, and he's getting shot while doing so. And Bernie's trying his best to rescue him. And we see Al, he's caught up in all of this, and he got himself hurt. The camphor coming up to the Alex. And what's really cool, when we see kind of like this close-up shot of the Alex, we kind of can see the real type markings on it, which is really cool. I've noticed that happens sometimes in Gundam UC. I actually noticed it in Double Zeta. There's one of the later episodes once you get into the 20s, where there's a close-up shot of a Kublai, I believe it is. Really cool shot as the camper's about to land. It is going to get those mines out of the truck to throw on the Alex with the Choban armor, and the Alex ignites its beam saber. Yeah, the camper throws the mines, and then the Alex blows up. Al is there to witness the whole thing. And really cool here, we start seeing the Choban armor fall apart. No, it's a really cool extra, technological thing they add to the mobile suits. And if you get the master grade or even the robot spirits or even the high grade, it comes with that extra Choban armor that you can take off and put on. And then it kind of has that look where the V-fin cracked on one side as well, which is usually something you can replicate with the robot spirits or the model kits. Beam saber, Gatling gun, awesome battles here. Obviously, I can't show the whole clip. Totally destroying them. Chris is on edge. She's used to just testing, just to get the data, the analysis of the data that she gets from testing, doing the test flights. But now she's actually in it for real, and she's being able to hold her own. And the bombs go off from earlier that the Cyclops team had, and this causes a hole in the colony itself. And for this episode, the ending shot, we see the Alex standing out there in the distance, Al standing there after witnessing everything, Bernie sitting there holding a pistol to Al because he caught him off guard, and it just really shows how dark this got, considering these three characters and how they know each other, what they're caught up in. So that is it for episode 4, Over the River and Through the Woods. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think this is one of the best episodes for so many reasons. The tension that builds up to the operation to either destroy or capture the Gundam and what comes of it. The fight with the camper through the city, even the Christmas theme where we hear the Jingle Bells song, we see the Christmas trees, and this is what kind of cements it as a Christmas classic. But also the animation when it comes to the gunfights and all the blood, it's very graphic, and it really helps contrast the childlike nature we're seeing by understanding Al and getting to know his character, and seeing the Zeons as just a cool mobile suit, the Zaku's as cool mobile suits from the Zeons, not that they're bad guys, but he's now witnessing it. He's witnessing what Bernie had, talked about earlier, how, people can die and it's not the greatest thing. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll talk to you next time.